What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel, and alongside with me, Shannon White, and our new guest, or not guest, a new host, our third co-host, Tate. First and foremost, Shannon, before we bring on Tate, Shannon, how are you doing, my man?
Well, it was a rough day. It was my father-in-law's funeral, but the Lord is good. We was able to get through everything, and a lot of stories and a lot of time of remembrance and respecting, and we just appreciate everybody that came out and was there, and so tonight will be a little bit of like Steelers therapy.
There you go. There you go. Thoughts and prayers still, my man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And our newest host, the trio now, Tate. How's it going, my man? Welcome to the show.
Daniel, thanks, man. Appreciate you guys having me or acquiring me during the trade.
Yeah.
Move. I'm sorry, it's my dog, Shannon. You know how it is.
Oh, I know.
You got a dog too, don't you, Daniel?
Yeah,
I do. I have a few.
Bronx, shut up. But no, Shannon, definitely thoughts and prayers still with you, man. You know, I mean, I'm sure it was a nice memorial ceremony funeral today.
Yep.
Lots of family getting together, celebrating Mr. Speedo's life, right?
That's right.
Shout out up there, Mr. Speedo.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, appreciate being able to join the team over here, man. I've been here before. I've filled in different times, sometimes for Shannon, a couple of times for Daniel, probably a couple of times for both y'all each. I mean, so I've probably been a handful of times. But yeah, Monday night, I think it's a great show already. I think when the season starts, we get to be after Jeff, Bad, and Dave do the pregame, we next up. There's still a lot of interest, so yeah. I think it's a great interaction time slot to interact with Steeler Nation and our listeners and viewers and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to being part of this going forward. And Daniel, if you ever need anything for me to do from a production standpoint, get something ready, you busy or something, just let me know, man. I got no problem doing that stuff. I did it on Wednesday and I do it with the know-it-all. So if you need anything, let me know.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I got two producers now. That's awesome.
Well, this is going to be a good show. I'm glad to have both of you guys on. I look forward to the future and this upcoming season. And it's starting off with a little bit of a bang. You know, we got a little bit of news in the injury update on Broderick Jones. Apparently, the neck injury was pretty severe. Ended up having neck fusion surgery. And so, we'll start off with you, Tate. How do you think this is going to impact Broderick's upcoming year? I highly doubt the Steelers are going to extend the fifth-year option at this point. I don't even know if he's going to play this upcoming year. I know neither of any of us are doctors up here. But what are your thoughts on how this impacts the team and Broderick Jones?
Well, it definitely impacts the team and Broderick Jones. I think as of now, I think the team has confidence in Dylan Cook going forward. Not that they don't need a guy, not that they won't potentially draft a development guy this year later, not in the first 4 rounds, just because they've used so much draft equity and capital with their first or second round picks the past few years on the offensive line, with Harmon, Jones, Frazier. Then on the D line with Harmon and Benton. Those are first or second round picks all up and down for the past 3 years. So far as Jones goes, I feel like he needs to play. I mean, I'm not 100%. I wasn't 100% set. Me and Shannon did a show a couple of weeks ago. Shannon talked me in. Now he didn't talk me into, but after listening to Shannon, I went by way of like, yeah, they're not going to extend him. They're going to make him play and see if he earned it. But I can see a way that they do pick up his 5th-year option because it's $19 million and the salary cap went up another 20 this year, and they'll probably go up at least another 20 or so more next year. Mm-hmm. So, and that's your first round investment. Like, so do you go ahead and take a chance at $19 million to see what you got still, or do you cut him and now you need to either spend draft capital or have to sign somebody? If you want a good left tackle, Dan Moore got $20 million last year to go to Tennessee, right? Dan Moore got $20 million. So that's what I'm saying. The market is such, if you believe in his talent, his potential, maybe you're under a new coach with Kamen, the new coach's name, and Jari Evans, offensive line coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You believe in the talent that you saw in the combine. I don't know that you could just let him go and never really got he only played like 9 games at left tackle, his true position. It might be worth a $19 million extension lottery just to see. I'm not saying you extending, but you might want to keep him around to see what it looks like because Dan Moore got $20 million.
That's a good point. It's going to cost a lot more. I don't know how much he's going to play, if at all, with an injury like this at the position that he plays and how it's going to affect him. I'm not familiar with many players who have had this position, this surgery and then came back.
Asante Samuel had it. That's what took him so long to get to the Steelers.
Okay. And so how long was he out?
When he joined the Steelers, he just came back. It was like 11 games he missed.
More,
right? But it took him about a whole season, a whole year.
And he plays cornerback.
Yeah,
he don't play tackle.
Exactly, and so
that's a lot more physical.
And this injury happened, towards the latter part of the season. It's very unfortunate, but I think, the Steelers, do you take the gamble and see if he's going to, be something come in middle of the season, and see if he can get on a moving train and develop. If the guy in front of him, Dylan Cook, is performing, then he's only going to get an opportunity if there's an injury or if he's the guys in front of him is not performing. So it's a little bit of a dilemma for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think, Shannon? Where should the Steelers go? How would you handle it with Broderick Jones?
Well, first, I want to point out something Tate said earlier about the rise of the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
You say, well, where's this money coming from? The NFL's been a big, had a monopoly and a huge entity for a while. But if you're noticing, there's more and more international games. There's more and more international revenue from those extra games. And, not only a 17-game season now, but the international games and a larger fan base worldwide. And so that's why this keeps happening. So as Tate says, it would have continually went up if it wasn't for COVID. That year really killed the Steelers because they lost some guys that they just all of a sudden couldn't afford because, it dropped. It had always been going up, and then it dropped. But I don't think they were going to extend Broderick Jones, nor do I think they should have picked up the 5th-year option based on his performance. This injury, it's done. There is not going to be any. If he comes back, and he does come back, late in the season, Vander Esch, for the Cowboys was another guy. Certain guys have had surgery, similar fusion surgeries that have been able to come back. But, some guys wear the neck roll. Some guys, Jones he was a little stiff at times anyway. I don't know if that's going to help. He's going to have to improve his footwork and his technique big time if he loses any flexibility at all, because he was already struggling there anyway. I think to me, with the quarterback market like it is, in the prospects for this draft class, you're not going to spend anything, I would say, 4th or later. I don't think you're going to go first 3 rounds. Well, they got 3 picks in the 3rd round. They might later part of that round put one in. So I would rather see anything open in that 1st round, guys. If a guy falls to 21, because just to move up from 21 to say 17, you got to give up a lot. And I don't see the Steelers doing that this year. I want to see them probably stay where they are or even trade back in the 1st round, acquire additional future picks. Then in the corresponding 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, where you get your premium talent, use those picks, some of them, to trade up and get the guy you want, not the guy who falls to you. And if somebody wants to trade up into one of your spots, acquire additional picks for the future. I think that's the plan this year. I really do. And I think that Broderick Jones is not being counted on. Let's put it that way. He will get a chance, depending on how Cook's doing or whatever like that. but it would not shock me in the slightest. And I agree with what Tate said about they've made investments in the line for the last few years, but it would not shock me again if they do it again, if the certain talent in that first round falls, because you're rebuilding this whole thing, whether they want to use that word or not. And we know Cam Hayward's getting ready to retire. You know, he's got 1 year, 2 max. So anything's open, in my opinion.
You know, I don't think that Broderick Jones is to the caliber of like Ryan Shazier. But when Ryan Shazier got injured, they didn't address the position. You know, they skipped like a whole year, and they just kind of try to put a Band-Aid there, and it was horrible.
And they made him go after Bush.
Right. Now we have Dylan Cook. Dylan Cook has a very small sample size. Now, once teams get tape on him and find out his weaknesses and strengths, then we're going to find out at that point, you know, where he's at. Now, is that worth, you know, is that a gamble the Steelers are willing to take on a guy like Cook who, what was he? Was he not drafted? Undrafted guy?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
but think about how much could he improve this offseason with the new coaches, the new strength conditioning guys, everything, and him being a focal point, knowing he has a chance to start this year. You know, it's whether he being a practice squad guy or being bottom of the depth chart than being a guy who might be counted on. They're going to give him a much more attention, much more hands-on. He knows what he needs to work on. He might come back next year even in better shape, stronger, because he's got the fluidity. He's got everything athletically. He needs more strength. And I fully expect him to come in ready to roll.
Well, and similar, and I'll go to the undrafted part of it. Villanueva was undrafted.
Exactly.
Villanueva played tight end. Dylan Cook played quarterback. So you got positional and mental flexibility from seeing the game from different levels. That I think Dylan Cook is somebody, and not saying that they don't replace him. I just don't believe it's an immediate need like the small guys are, like a wide receiver or safety or cornerback. So that's why I mentioned the investments they've made 2 of the past 3 years with their first and second round picks in those positions, because you've been ignoring receivers and defensive backs for those first or second round picks. And this is the year, to me, it's time to get some of those guys. Not that you don't get offensive line or defensive line at some point, but early.
I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, I mean, left tackle is a pretty important position. And if you end up bringing back Aaron Rodgers, you know, that's going to be even more amplified as far as the importance goes, as far as protecting his blind side. You know, you can get all the receivers you want. If Rodgers, one, isn't comfortable with a young guy, he's probably not going to get out on the field anyways. 2, he's going to have to, you know, the rookie's going to have to, you know, be able to get on the same page, which is one of the things that we've all discussed before when it comes to like why Roman Wilson isn't on the field. It's not so much about talent. It's about, you know, being on time and being in the right spot at the right time. And so, you know, I don't know if he's going to find that chemistry right away with somebody who's a rookie. And, you know, again, this is if and working on the premise that it's most likely going to be Rodgers coming back. I don't know. I don't know if you want to completely ignore the left tackle position and put it all in the hands of Dylan Cook. I think you have to at least bring some sort of competition in, you know, and I think it has to be better than a 4th round pick. Is there anybody in free agency that maybe perhaps you think the Steelers would target, or do you think maybe they would consider, I don't know, moving Fautanu to the left side, and now you have a kind of an opening on the right side? But any other options you could think that could have some sort of something to fall back on if it doesn't work out with Cook?
Yeah, but you can't go into the season counting on Cook, just like you know, solely.
Right.
I mean, I think he has he's in the first starting position right at the moment, but you can't rely on that. As you say, the sample size is too small. Now, I was just looking at something. He's 28. You know, he's 6'6.5" and 300-some pounds. He'd probably come in. He could easily play at 315, 320, especially if he puts on some mass. He's got the athleticism. I liked his technique. But again, you know, they're going to have to coach him up. But they need a backup option who has the potential to start. I don't know who's out there in free agency right now, but like you said, it's too big a risk just to roll in with Cook only.
Yeah, I wouldn't roll in just solely with Cook. And the sample size is too small, and maybe perhaps he turns into something. He could be the next Villanueva. He could also be the next guy that we don't hear about who's bagging bags before the season starts
Well,
next
true,
year.
true, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we don't know now. I hope it works out for him. You know, and if he does, that saves the Steelers a lot of headache and a lot of time and a lot of money, because
Yes,
that,
yes.
that can be kind of expensive there when you're going out there in free agency. You know,
Oh, that's real expensive. And I mean, I'm a big Fautanu fan. He can easily play the left side. He's
Right.
just got that kind of, that talent and that mobility and flexibility. But again, then you're weakening the right side. So that's why I was talking with Tate there a second ago. Depending on who falls, that
Yeah.
first round's wide open because you're going BPA. And if it's a tackle and somebody happens to fall in your lap, you got to take them. Kind of like when the Steelers took David DeCastro or one of them guys that fell to them, and you see how that worked out. So I that's what I'm saying. I don't think that, as much as I want to see a wide receiver, and I think we're all so frustrated with the wide receiver position, and I have no faith in them being able to pick up one in free agency or through trade. I want to see them draft, but in that first round, it's got to be, if there's a guy there you can't pass up, you don't pass him.
Well, I mean, there has been some rumors, and the title of the show is the rumors that are swirling about the wide receiver group and a potential trading partner with Jacksonville for Brian Thomas, wide receiver. Tate, how would you feel about that if they address the wide receiver group with a guy like Brian Thomas, who had an impressive first year, kind of fell off last year? What will how would you feel about that kind of move?
To me, to what Shannon just said, the only tackle options that I don't think will fall, but that I'd even consider, is Fanu from Utah and Vega from Penn State, as far as tackles.
Yeah.
I do think they need to address the guard position. I can do that in the second or third round. Watch the entire combine yesterday, offensive lineman. But so if you're not getting one of those two guys, and tackle is not even an option in the first round. As far as the wide receiver position, we got two definite wide receivers. We don't know what Roman Wilson is. We know what DK Metcalf is. We know what the receiver position is looked at when it was George Pickens by himself, when it was DK by himself, when it was crash out Deontay Johnson and crash out George Pickens together. And these are all the years we've neglected these skill positions. So I like Brian Thomas. To go to your question, I like Brian Thomas, but we'd still, at minimal, I'd feel like be giving up a second pick 53. And you're doing the same thing you did with DK last year. And you got to turn around. I think of the wide receivers, especially if one drops to you, say Jordan Tyson drops to the Steelers because of he didn't do the combine, injury concerns. I want that, right? I mean, and I make my second round pick. It just depends, like Shannon said, who's available at 21. I don't want to trade up for anybody. I don't. So at 21, I'd rather trade me, because I've heard this rumor too. I'd rather trade my first and maybe Nick Herbig, if you can't work out a deal with him, for AJ Brown. And then with my second, I don't have to address wide receiver. I got 2/3. I know I got two studs at wide receiver. And I just think you got to get a guy. I'm not convinced Brian Thomas is a guy. He had a good rookie season.
I got to say this, Tate. With knowing the Steelers' history of malcontent wide receivers, I am a huge A.J. Brown fan as far as his production. He was playing for a Super Bowl caliber team, won a Super Bowl. They had a chance last year. He wasn't getting the ball enough. He wasn't happy. He created a bunch of headaches. And that's the only reason he's even rumored to be out there. The talent ain't the problem. It's the package. With the Steelers' issues in the past, and I still think they do not have a franchise quarterback. They do not have the guy that's going to be able to feed him the ball, even to the caliber that Hurts did. I see that being only problems. I want whoever they bring in to be no drama or low drama. I don't want that kind of drama. So that's my only problem with that idea. And I don't know about Brian Thomas, what happened, how he fell out of favor in Jacksonville. I don't know.
Well, a new coaching staff came in from his best year to the next year.
Yeah, but I mean his numbers dropped, pretty massive. And that's why that he's even available out there. We know there's other free agents out there that you don't have to give up capital for. That would be an upgrade over what the Steelers had after Metcalf. If you draft somebody, to me, they're trying to unload Thomas, and I'm like, why? That's because the talent's there. But yeah, that's the only problem I have with Brown is the Steelers have got to start looking at character and maturity when they go after guys, including this draft class. They cannot pick guys that fall because of these questions, because they obviously don't have the capabilities to handle and govern these players once they get to Pittsburgh.
So does that mean I wonder how you would react if the Steelers ended up drafting Mekhi Lemon? Have y'all seen?
I'm not a fan. I've already said I'm not a fan of that young man.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen he's apparently his draft stock is
he bombed every one of them
because of the interviews. Yeah.
Yes,
Did you catch the interview that he did at the combine?
No, I didn't see it. No.
Oh man, it's weird.
I was reading about it, but I don't know how many teams said they took him off the board altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people were thinking maybe he's trying to purposely tank his stock a little bit, so maybe he can go to a team that's more of a contender.
Yeah.
So he's out of the question for you. What about you, Tate? How would you feel if at 21, Lemon's on the draft on the board, and the Steelers are in need of a receiver there?
Being at pick 21, and the kid's probably like 21, 22 years old. And Shannon and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago about people have to mature. You're not going to draft a kid and not be a kid, right? So we're not talking about nothing he did. We're talking about how we all perceived his interview, right? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, he got a history of trouble. We're not talking about his teammates that he's a bad teammate. We're not talking about none of that stuff. We're talking about how we saw the interview and how people interpreted his interview, So I don't have a problem. I wouldn't let that be a deal breaker for me. I think he's probably the second most talented wide receiver in the draft. I mean, and we've
who's number one?
I'd say number one is probably Tate still. I mean,
you think he's better than Jordan?
No, I mean, because I'm going considering right now the injury. I think
because you said Jordan's Tyson's like the perfect.
Yeah,
he's the perfect match if he fell to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, I like Tyson best.
Yeah,
but now but Mekhi Lemon wouldn't be off my board if I'm Pittsburgh.
Because Tyson played under Ward as a coach.
Hines Ward, yeah.
If anybody knows what is expected in Pittsburgh, that young man will be more ready than anybody. Because I guarantee you, Ward said, "This is how we do it." So Lemon showed traits in college that I question. Now, understand, I'm wrong sometimes. I was wrong about Williams for the Bears, the quarterback.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb. I thought, crying on the sidelines, painting his nails, everything else. I said, he's not going to have leadership. He's not going to. You get the right coach, and you see he had a great year. He looks clutch. He stays calm. I was wrong about him. Now he's very desirable with the right coach. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that if you bring in a guy with maturity issues, I don't see us, or we didn't have. I don't know what McCarthy's squad will have, his coaching staff. But we did not have the guys who could control that lack of character and immaturity, because you had George Pickens, who's a supremely talented player. And I had a guy at the funeral today say, "Oh, man, they messed up trading Pickens." I said, no, because he wouldn't have done that in Pittsburgh. They didn't have the offense. They didn't have the franchise quarterback. They didn't have none of the stuff that he had, the other really good receiver in CeCe Lamb. So I just don't think the Steelers, you can't take that chance with this first round pick. It's too important to spend it on Lemon. I just don't know how I think.
Well, at 21 again, I'm going to the field. No bad character reports, no bad teammate reports, none of that. We talking about how we and people saw his interview. You know what I mean? And maybe he did do it on purpose. I'm sure he has an agent already and has been, coached up and stuff like that. I mean, it could backfire, right? Or he could end up in the perfect spot, So
yeah, but
we'll
the one young man over the weekend, I can't remember who it was, said, "Save me from the Jets." He told multiple teams. He said, "Please draft me, save me from the Jets," because he didn't want to go to New York and play for the Jets, which I don't think a lot of people do want to go there. Right. But what I'm saying is, agents will tell you, okay, this is how to handle this. Whoever told him to bomb his interviews as bad as Lemon did must have been the same guy giving Bell advice.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell giving him advice because somebody give him bad advice.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Pretty bad stuff.
That's just my feeling on Lemon, though. Like, I don't let that be a drop you off my board.
Yeah, he's got the talent. It'd be interesting if he did drop, if the Steelers would end up pulling the trigger there, because I think they could use a wide receiver, obviously, but I think they could use a wide receiver of his skill, especially since it's not really panned out with Roman Wilson. Calvin Austin is probably not going to come back. Who do you have there to fill that slot need? You're working with Scotty Miller again.
And to me, even with Roman Wilson, I don't think Roman's been given an opportunity.
Yeah, maybe that given a chance.
Yeah, he's not getting an opportunity. So I won't judge his on-field play because he hasn't been given an opportunity to play.
Yeah.
But you don't need to bring him back if you bring back Rodgers. Because Rodgers don't want to play with Roman Wilson. He will get more experienced guys.
I can't let one more year Rodgers make me get off a third round pick, that could be talented. I can't let that determine what I do.
Well, maybe McCarthy won't let him do that, but he was allowed to do that last year. He didn't even want to play with Williams.
Yeah. And I also heard there was things that Arthur Smith didn't necessarily care for Wilson either. Whatever the reason, I don't know, but I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk more about the combine and how the quarterbacks did. Anybody shine? Anybody look good in your eyes? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, stillcurrentnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. If all you're listening to also, by the way, is or watching us is on YouTube, and you're not going over to the website or anywhere you find the audio-only podcast, you're missing out on majority of the content. So make sure you go out there to the website. Make sure you go out to wherever you find your podcast. You'll find the audio only podcast, which include mine, State of the Steelers, that airs out on Saturdays at 11 a.m. You won't find it on YouTube. You'll only find it on the audio platform. So before we get back into the conversation, Danny Jr. 86.4 comes in with 199 saying, trade Highsmith for BTR and a fourth rounder. Done deal. Only BTR I know is Ben Todd Roethlisberger. I don't think that's let us know who BTR is.
It got to be Brian Thomas Jr., I would guess.
I don't know. Yeah, what? Maybe you can answer that. What's BTR?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with BTR. But would you trade Highsmith? I mean, if you look at the that was fast. If you look at the depth on the outside linebacker position, is Highsmith one of the players that you're looking at as possible trade piece? No. He has had some issues staying on the field, but when healthy, I think he's been a pretty dominant force. Shannon, what are your thoughts?
No, he's a Steeler. He knows the Steeler way. He sets a great edge. He could give you a solid pass rush. I think that you're going to have to move off of TJ Watt at some point and get out from under that massive contract. And Herbie wants to be a starter. He might not want to be around. And you might not be able to extend him. or sign him. And the problem is I don't think he's ever going to be big enough to set a great edge. Highsmith does. I think you got Sawyer, who I think Sawyer is underrated. Sawyer, if you have Sawyer on one side and Highsmith on the other side, they're going to set the edge. You ain't running outside.
Yeah.
And Herbig, I mean, I love Herbig, but he's a specialist. He's a pass rush specialist. If you ask him to set the edge consistently, start all year, he's going to get blowed off the ball. Mm-hmm. He's going to wear it down because he's too little. And he's got short arms. He can't get reach. There's one of the young men, Bain, from Miami. Looks like a freak of nature. He looks like another James Harrison. But he's got short arms, and everybody's worried about it. Herbig has short arms. Herbig is lighter than Bain. And he was going to be playing out at edge. So I don't think you make Herbig a starter. Wherever he goes, he needs to be in the right system, and he needs to be a specialist, a pass rush specialist. You do not trade Highsmith. If you can, you get out from under Watt.
Gotcha. What about you there, Tate? What do you think? And you can also exchange Highsmith for Herbig if you wanted to. So would this answer your wide receiver question, and also possibly save yourself a draft pick, not having to waste that second round? Would that entice you more to maybe perhaps make a deal for outside linebacker for Brian Thomas Jr.?
I'm with Shannon. If it was Herbig, because they're Brian Thomas Jr. and Herbig both on their rookie deal, so you can make that work. Highsmith is making $18 million. Herbig's going to want about that. I think Highsmith was the best Steeler defender last year, outside out the edge rushers. The best edge last year. He's the most complete as TJ's getting older. I agree with Shannon. He used the exact word I was thinking while he was talking. Pass rush specialist. He's one of those guys like Philly has, like the Nolan Smith guy they drafted out of Georgia. Speed, edge rusher, get around the corner fast, quick moves. But yeah, over the course of to think he's going to play 80% of the snaps and not get wore down due to size and continually taking on offensive linemen and chip blocks we think TJ has a problem with chip blocks.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, Herbig is going to get ate up. And I love Herbig, right? I mean, I think the best thing to do right now is, if you can't sign him, make him available in the trade package, because you're not going to re-signing, you may as well make him available now. Because, the market only going to go up, and you ain't going to have control next year.
I want us to remember something. I don't know if everybody paid attention. How many guys last year did the Steelers play? We know Dwayne Washington.
Mm-hmm.
He's a monster. We got that. He's such an advantage. Mount Washington.
Okay, you said Dwayne. I was going back to the old cornerback.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, okay.
Mount Washington is such an advantage at his weight and everything and his size, and we're going to try to use him more and all. And you see how he could be dominant at times. How many guys did the Steelers play? Teams that had right at 300, at least 280 pound or 300-pound fullbacks. When they played one team, was it the Chargers that has two of them? They have two guys that are like fullbacks that are like 300 pounds. If you're watching how the game is changing, that fullback is a large 280, 300-pound dude who has the quickness to be fullback and lead. They don't even call them H-backs anymore. They're smash backs. And they lead, and they destroy edge guys.
Yeah.
And they destroy inside linebackers. And you're going to see bigger linebackers. Because if teams are there, everybody suggested that
the run game is back.
And so now they're going to go with the heavy run packages. Like the Steelers, most of their success running the ball is out of a heavy package. That's going to make Herbig even more of a liability if he has to play too much.
I agree. I would probably move off of Herbig if needed to. If I was going to move off of one, I 100% agree with everything that you guys are saying. And then maybe even address the outside linebacker position again, later rounds.
It's a lot of guys there too at that position in the draft.
Yeah.
You can kind of replace. Now you won't get but you got Herbig in the fourth round. You could get a guy similar to Herbig, a specialist, in the third or fourth round if that's what you wanted. to replace what you traded away.
That's what Herbig was, a tweener.
Right.
And that's where you get him. But
Yeah.
as you say, there's guys, if this coaching staff can develop a guy, and there's guys there that need a little bit more seasoning, but you could really develop them.
Who's the guy, Shannon? Because you brought up the fullback. Used to be our fullback. Used to be a D tackle in college. For Bell, Le'Veon Bell. What's his name?
Oh,
I can see him. I can't call his name.
There was different guys. He was out of WVU, right?
No, I think he played at like one of the small schools, like Kent State or something like that.
See, I don't remember now.
Yeah, live chat. If you remember his name, put it in the comments for us. But go. I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead. But I only said that to say because now the fullbacks are former defensive tackles or guard stuff like that.
Yeah,
because you're not looking for him to run the ball. You're looking to get an extra lead blocker or quarterback protector back there.
Well, they tried to make Kendrick Green a fullback, remember?
Right.
He can't because he couldn't play center.
You're not talking about Rosie, right? Knicks.
That's
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And he was from that smaller conference. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember. He was fan favorite.
Everybody liked Rosie. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, and great question there, Danny Jr. Appreciate that for the super chat. Thank you so much. The combine was interesting. I got a chance to watch a little bit. I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of it, but I did want to see some of the quarterbacks that were playing. Me personally, going into it, I think, if there's a quarterback that I'm hoping the Steelers end up going out and getting, and it's in the later rounds, is maybe perhaps Drew Aller. I saw him throw the ball, beautiful deep throw. He's got the size, the strength. I still kind of feel that way. I know a lot of people are looking at Ty Simpson as having a pretty pretty decent showing at the combine, but he reminds me a lot of Kirk Cousins. I don't know why when I watch him, when I look at him, it's Kirk Cousin all over the place. But to me,
Kenny Pickett all over again. No.
Yeah, to me, I'm still kind of leaning towards Aller out of Penn State. We'll start off with you, Shannon. I know you didn't get a chance to watch a lot of combine, but did you catch anything or catch up on some of the quarterbacks? And what are you interested in, or anything catch your eye?
As I was telling you guys before this podcast, with all the family stuff and everything going on, I wasn't able to watch. Usually I do draft evaluation. I write articles, do the podcast. I didn't get to watch hardly any. So I would watch summaries for like Nick Fireball, who I respect a lot. He's, and he's going to be on our podcast Wednesday, so everybody keep that in mind. But I'm going to have to really rely on everybody, and I know Tate and Big G and everybody that really has been studying the college game up to the combine. I'm relying on what they've seen and what what I've seen in the college season. Did not impress me. I'd said if Shambles came out that I would, mid-round pick on him. Nussmeier, if I'm saying his name right, the guy's got Josh Allen arm talent. I mean, he's got but he didn't have a great cast around him at LSU, and that does affect the guy. But I think you step back, Alar, same thing, really good size arm, but he stepped back. But again, it was a talent issue. So my whole thing, Daniel, is middle round. If McCarthy can work some magic and their staff can coach these guys up, you go with whoever your veteran is, whether it's Rodgers or whoever, Will Howard and a draft pick, and I'm okay. I don't necessarily need to see Mason Rudolph again. I mean, he is the backup, and he may be third string next time. And so I would just rather this move away from that. Everybody knows I'm not really excited about having Rodgers back in the first place. So, but to say this, and I will say it clear as I can, I do not want Ty Simpson. And he would have to prove me wrong. I think if they do, they're reaching because the draft's in Pittsburgh. And I think they'll be doing another Kenny Pickett, and they're going to pick somebody that has a very small window. I mean, sample size that has not showed me anything at Alabama at one of the top football programs that make me think. I thought more of Kenny Pickett coming out than I do of Simpson. So for me, Nussmeier, Alar, somebody like that in the middle rounds, I do not want Simpson.
Nice. What about you, Tate? What are your thoughts? Did you catch? I'm sure you caught the combine. What was your impression of the quarterbacks? Did you? Was it as expected? Did anybody surprise you?
I caught it. I watched all the quarterback part of it each Saturday night. But yeah, I'm with Shannon. I don't want Simpson, but he clearly proved himself as number 2 quarterback in this draft. He clearly proved himself to be a number 2 quarterback. Now after that, I think it's Drew Aller. You know, Aller threw well, did the drills well, and when you see him on the field, you see 6'5", 235. Now he has a Josh Allen arm. I'll say about Nussmeier, I think he's more of a mental processor, reads the field, son of a coach. But at LSU, I know he had a bad line. He had happy feet, and he had on like all kind of contraptions up his legs and knees and stuff. And I'm concerned about some of his athleticism. So I wouldn't want him. I think Carson Beck played himself above Nussmeier. I'd probably put Carson Beck next if I'm the Steelers. So, and I believe they talked to Beck, Simpson, Aller, and Nussmeier. And I think the Nussmeier thing is a courtesy relationship with McCarthy and Doug Nussmeier, the dad of Garrett Nussmeier. I think he's a talent.
Do you like Nussmeier's arm?
He's accurate. I don't think it's so much as strong as you might think. I mean, I think he can throw a nice, accurate deep ball, but again, I don't think he has like a cannon. But he to me, he didn't pop. He was good in his drills, right? He was good in his drills.
No, I ain't talking about his drills. I'm just talking about his arm.
Oh,
he has a powerful arm. Now, to me, like Josh Allen come out, it was all arm talent, but it wasn't accurate. Right. Now he's more accurate than Allen was. But he's not the athlete that Allen was.
Right. That's Nussmeier. I mean, not Nussmeier. That's Aller to me.
Aller, yeah.
Is a homeless man's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
People typically say poor man's. I heard homeless man's Josh Allen. I'm using that one.
He's a big boy. Too, yeah.
He's a big boy. He can got cannon.
Yeah.
I like
acclimated to cold weather.
Yeah.
He's
used to it. Yeah.
I mean, from Ohio, played in Ohio high school and went to Penn State. So that part. I liked Cade Klubnik better than Nussmeier. He didn't have all the stuff. I think he has more mobility than Nussmeier. But actually, if we're talking the 5th quarterback, I said this last week, we talked about it. I was on Anthony Richardson, but you got to trade for him. The kid out of Arkansas, Taylor Green, tested out of the roof. I mean, for a dart throw in the 5th round, come to my building. McCarthy, quarterback guru, see what you can do with that. And then next year, I don't necessarily have to draft an early quarterback this year because typically you might gamble if Simpson was there and you would take him. But this year you don't have to do that because of next year. There's going to be 7 or 8 quarterbacks, and you can get a quarterback, if not your quarterback, one of your quarterbacks that you want next year. So to me, you don't put an early investment in that. I'll say maybe the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick at the highest. And that's if you want Aller, right? Only if you want Aller. If you want any of the other guys, you wait to the 4th or 5th and see what's there. But
I want to ask, y'all know who Jim Brewer is, the comedian?
I'm not familiar with him.
You ever seen him? He looks like he's high all the time. He's really
a lot of people I know look like that.
I know, but he's really funny because he looks like he's half awake or he's high all the time.
What's his name? We'll look him up and take a picture of him.
Jim Brewer.
Jim Brewer?
Brewer.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, when I see Beck has that same look.
Oh, yeah, I've seen him before.
Yeah, Beck has that same look like he's half awake or he's high. I don't know if you're sitting in a meeting with him and you're thinking, is he really listening? Is this an inspirational face to lead my team out on the field for a championship game? Something about the look of that guy. that just bothers me. And I think he was dating a porn star at one time, so I don't know if I'm interested.
But he was dating a volleyball player. She was big on Instagram down in Miami. That's kind of why he went to Miami too. But he's 6'5". He's a big guy. He's not as mobile as Aller. And I think that's the Will Howard, Drew Aller, Carson Beck. That's why I think Nussmeier. I don't think Nussmeier fits what the Steelers are looking for, just from a physical standpoint. You know what I mean? So I really feel like that's a courtesy. We'll see. We'll bring him in. I mean, maybe we'll draft him in the third or fourth round if he's available to see. You know what I mean? But I'm not a fan of Nussmeier. I like the big guys, the strong arm guys, or like I said, because Taylor Green is 6'5" and jumped 40. He set records at the broad jump, vertical jump, and the 40 for all quarterbacks ever.
But do you think that Green is like all athlete? I mean, he's a great athlete, but it's almost like Richardson got overdrafted because he's a great athlete.
But he got drafted with pick 4 in the first round. I said fifth round pick.
Well, I know what you're saying. Yeah, if you're taking a chance later, you got 12 picks. I understand. But I'm just talking about, I'm afraid somebody's going to overdraft the kid. Because if you draft him, if you're patient, you might have something. But like you said, when you draft Richardson as high as he did, he had no shot.
Right. Because when you draft that high, it's expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Does he even throw the ball well? Like I tried looking up highlights from Green, and everything I found is him breaking the pocket and running for a big run. I mean, I'm not blaming the guy for doing that. He's got all the talent in the world to do that. But how does he throw the ball?
You can only do that so long in the NFL.
Yeah, but if you're looking at highlights, that's what you're going to see. You got to watch some of the games or look at some clips from some of the games. But he has a strong arm. Now, the accuracy, if it's something you can work on, you work on it. But I'll say Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick who was known as a physical, not solely a running quarterback, but he could bully some yards and get some before. But this is before his injury, and I saw Dak had his best years under Mike McCarthy. So I'm not suggesting he come in and be a starter. I'm not saying that you don't draft somebody next year.
Exactly.
I'm saying you got him, Will Howard, and the guy you get next year. Now you got 3 young guys. Yeah. You guys figured out, and ideally the guy you take in the first round next year will be the guy, and you have a backup between Howard and Taylor Green.
Here's something you got to keep in mind. If a young man does what the coaching staff requires, and they ask him to use his athleticism, use his mobility, they develop the offense around that. And so therefore you have to look at, does he have the work ethic? Obviously he is willing to be molded. He's obviously willing to do what the coaching staff asks him to do.
Hey Dan, can you read Somber's comment? It just went off the screen. He had a good take.
Green has a nice deep ball, throws a decent slant and dig. He has a pretty slow delivery because he's so long.
That's fair. Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if he's willing, if he has that work ethic, and you got to do your due diligence and find out, does he take coaching? Will he put the work in to improve on a weakness? All this. And you have patience, and the coaching staff able to coach him up. It's somebody you take a risk on for 4th round.
You talked about character. He's a good kid. I believe they say he's a son of a pastor and a school teacher. And they interviewed him after. And if we going off interviews, he came across real well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Exactly. He came across really. If we going off interviews, but yeah.
I just hope he don't get overdrafted, and then people won't give him the proper time to develop.
But the overdraft for him is 3rd or 4th round, right? Exactly. That's an overdraft for him.
Exactly. Yep.
Not like they did with Richardson.
No, that's crazy.
I mean, I would consider taking him if he was considering a position switch. If he switched over to a receiver, 4-3-7.
I don't like. And they asked him that too. He says he's a quarterback, so I don't think he has any plans on that. I wouldn't expect him to. He said he's a quarterback. He's always played quarterback. I think
guys that works for. It worked for Randall L, but it don't work for everybody.
Well, yeah, Randall L was 5'9", and I think I got a podcast come on Nordall's channel called The Evolution of the Black Quarterback, and we talk about some of that stuff where they always want, because it was talk about switching Lamar Jackson to another position. when he was drafted in 2017. That wasn't that long ago.
Well,
So
hey guys, look at Warren Moon. He had to go dominate in Canada.
Yeah.
For like 5 years before he could come back and they give him a shot in the NFL, and then he become one of the best pure passers in the league. So again, it's not like that anymore, thankfully.
Right.
It's not like that. But so to me, if they're saying for Green to make a position switch, I'm like, how raw is he as a quarterback?
Right.
No, I get that, but I mean, you got some things that you would look for in a wide receiver you can't coach. 4.37, 6'5", and that speed and that length.
It's a freak athlete. Yeah.
Well, at the least, you draft him and put him in a Taysom Hill position.
Yeah,
and he's a weapon on your offense for a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
That I would not be opposed to. I would not be opposed to, especially if you're not looking at him as possibly being any real, anything other than a flyer, a dart on the wall, so to speak, as you mentioned earlier. Not anything real contention as to be your potential starter or looked at.
Daniel, Dylan Cook went from college freshman quarterback to tight end to offensive line. Now he might start the left tackle for the Steelers. So hey, you just don't know.
Right, you never know.
Versatility. Yeah. Oh, that's insane. And so these guys, we mentioned draft positioning for when you would draft them. Are we? I think I'm in agreement here. I wonder if you guys are in agreement with me that none of these guys, outside of maybe Drew Aller, prevents the Steelers, and maybe not even him, depending on where they draft him, prevents the Steelers from moving on to another quarterback in next year's draft. I know that's probably a little bit unorthodox to draft a quarterback in every year, 3 consecutive years in a row, if they end up doing something like that.
Yeah.
But is Drew Aller probably, in y'all's opinion, or is there another quarterback that is here that would prevent the Steelers, if drafted, from drafting a quarterback next year? We'll start off with you, Tate.
I think Drew Aller is the only quarterback that's worth one of their 3rd round picks, maybe even as early as their first 3rd round pick. Mm-hmm. He's the only quarterback in this draft I would want. I mean, it is unorthodox, but you got to draft guys so you have a guy. Teams that don't draft quarterbacks are teams that have quarterbacks. So, so if I use the 6 on Will Howard last year and I use a 3rd on Drew Aller this year, and next year I go get my 1st round guy, and you see what you got, and like I said already, you hope your 1st round guy wins it because that's who you invested the most capital in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But you gotta just keep throwing stuff on the wall till you see what sticks. So I agree with bringing the young guys in, which is why I've been a proponent of, and I liked him in the combine too. We didn't talk wide receivers, but Trey Lance's little brother, Bryce Young, 6'4", ran a 4.3, 4.40, played at South Dakota State. I'm with bringing, because he played under McCarthy too. Bring Trey Lance in as your 3rd quarterback. Let's see what some of these highly talented guys that didn't work look like in our room. Like Sam Darnold went somewhere else and got good. Baker Mayfield went somewhere else and got good. Let's see what somebody saw. We gave Mitch Trubisky an opportunity. That didn't work. You know what I mean? So you could probably bring somebody like Trey Lance in for $2 or $3 million to play a backup. But you got a guy to compete with Will Howard, sit behind Aaron Rodgers, and then draft a guy. If you don't draft a guy this year, I'm suggesting that, right? If you don't draft one of those guys, use your capital on somebody else, bring in a 3rd quarterback like that. And I agree with Shannon. I've seen enough of Mason Rudolph. Not anything against Mason, but Mason is what he is. Yep. The ceiling is where it has been. I don't think it gets higher than it has been. I don't think it even gets back to where it was. And the floor is where it's at. He had his opportunity to really come prove us wrong, or, to take off against Chicago when he got his opportunity. He didn't do it. And so we know what Mason is. He's a career good backup, but we looking for a guy, so we need to even move off him and let some of these young guys get some of those reps that Mason is getting in practice and stuff like that.
Yeah. What about you, Shannon? Are you on the same boat there with, draft a quarterback every year until you get one? And is there a quarterback that prevents you from drafting? Because let's just say you go out there and you get Drew Aller, and Rodgers comes back. It's not like you're going to see Drew Aller all year. You know what I mean? You're only going to see him in the preseason, and I don't think that's going to be any sign of his development. They'll see some stuff in practice and things of that nature, but that's it's not the same as being on the field. So, how do you feel about that possible move?
To me, as Tate said, you draft quarterbacks, you try to acquire quarterbacks, you do whatever you can till you have a quarterback. The teams with franchise quarterbacks are guys capable of leading a team to a Super Bowl. Until you have one, you're not a contender. So every year, you're going to either get one, acquire one, or draft one every year until you find one. And then, you focus on the backups and stuff of that nature. To me, they already lost Will Howard's rookie season. He needs a ton of playing time this preseason to see what he can do against vanilla defenses and how much he progressed from last year to have a better idea. Because, he's a 6th-round pick. He had a 4-year contract. You got to know something going into year 3. And so if Rodgers comes back and that means Will Howard ain't going to get to play again. Now, we know he was hurt. But I'm saying if it would keep him from getting any playing time this year or experience, I don't want Rodgers back. To me, you're always looking until you find it. And if a guy comes up available at trade, the right free agent option, whatever it may be, you might have to get creative, guys, to find a franchise-capable leader at quarterback. You're going to have to give up something usually, or you're going to have to, roll the dice and go for it, like the Rams did when they acquired Matt Stafford. You can't put your toe in the water like they've been doing for the last few years trying to get a wide receiver. You dive in head first. And if you screw up, you try to fix it later. That's what good front offices do, good GMs do. You can't, dip your toe in. You got to really go all in. So I just don't see the guy in this draft. I see some guys you might could try to develop. And again, until we see what McCarthy and him could do, we don't know. But yeah, I want to see them acquire that guy capable of being the standard of quarterback that we want to see and we're used to. That the last since Ben's retirement and even before his injury, we haven't seen. So that's what the Steelers have got to get back to.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree there, guys. I don't disagree. And so we're getting close to the hour. Any final words? We'll start off with you, Tate. Final words and where they can find you the rest of the week.
Yeah, man. It's fun, having a discussion with you guys. As far as finding me the rest of the week, thanks for tapping in tonight, everybody in the live chat, comment and stuff like that. As far as finding me the rest of the week, I'll be back on Steel Curtain Network Friday night with the homies. Check us out here, and the rest of the week on different stuff. I'll be on the Know It Alls channel, so go over to the Know It Alls, subscribe, hit like, and you'll check myself, Big G and Mod and Pay and B Dirt and the rest of the guys out over there at some point doing every week. So that's all I got to say for tonight, man. Thanks everybody.
There you go. What about you, Shannon? What do you got going on the rest of the week?
Well, Wednesday night at 8:00, Jeremy Betts and I, as we talked about last week, we got a new podcast. Still coming up with the name. I read some of them by you earlier, and we're still trying to figure out which one we're going to go with. But I've got Nick Fireball, who's a local Pittsburgh sports guy, sports beat reporter, and he's at the combine. He gives us our training camp updates every day during the season. He's there every day, walk and talk with Nick, and he's very, very knowledgeable. He's one of the guys I trust and I follow, and he's going to be on Wednesday night at 8:00 with me and Jeremy. So everybody tune in, and because he's just spent the week at the combine, so I'm anxious because I didn't even get to watch it. So I'm anxious for him to give us some insights. I've read some of his, and it's very interesting. He's talking about. I swear, I'm trying to think. It's been a long day. Our tight end. My goodness, Freiermuth. Supposedly, different teams have inquired about would the Steelers move him. 6 teams, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I seen that before we come on, and the Steelers are like, no, because they actually want to use him. I think that McCarthy wants to use the middle of the field and use the tight end. So, you hear a lot of things like Kevin Smith, one of our, members at the Steel Curtain Network, one of our colleagues, he was there and he wrote different articles this week about things he heard and stuff. And you get that insight, and so follow that, all the articles and check in Wednesday night on our new podcast and hear what Nick has to say.
Awesome. We'll look forward to it. I know that you had you threw out a couple of names. I was kind of perplexed when you said that the Steel Toe Jam was leading, but hey, whatever you guys want to call it.
No, it wasn't Steel Toe Jam. No.
Let us know.
The Still Suck podcast, because the Steelers haven't been doing well the past few years. He ain't gonna vouch for that.
We're keeping it positive.
We're keeping it positive. Well, guys, you guys will find me on Saturday at about 11 a.m. on the audio side only. If you guys are into other stuff like true crime and conspiracies, I actually covered those type of things on a show called The Drunk Turkey Show or The DT Show. Search it on YouTube. We just hit over 53,000 subscribers, so I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
So until next time, guys, we'll see you guys then. Shannon, take us out, my man.